Hello everyone and welcome to Train Sim World. So yet another game on the channel. As I did say at the beginning, I'm trying out a bunch of different games just to get an idea of what it's like recording them, editing them, and all this kind of stuff that I don't really know. Anyways, let's get into this train. So this is a German S-Bahn unit. So I don't know if you've ever been to Germany, but there are different types of trains. So you've got underground trains, which is called the U-Bahn, and then you have the S-Bahn, which is kind of like the regional trains. You can say it's roughly equivalent to National Rail in the United Kingdom. And then, of course, you've got high-speed lines such as the ICE, or well, the ICE is from Germany, but you've got other high-speed operators operating on German lines. And so this is the S-Bahn, which is the regional train. And you'll see that this train is actually very nice and nimble, which is very useful for this kind of commuter service that we'll be doing. I'm not exactly sure of the route, I cannot remember. I've not played this in quite a long time, but we might go into an underground section. Let's just see. Are we heading north? Oh yes, we are heading north. So we will not go into the underground section. But here there is an underground section where you travel, but in tunnels underneath the town of... what is the... I can't even remember what the town is, but it's a city, it's not a town, my bad. I think, is it Köln? I can't remember. Anyways, we're just waiting 1 minute now to be able to go. And just something I've got to do quickly actually is uninsulate some safety things. No, not SIFA. I'll explain what these are in just a bit. There you go. So, what I turned on was the PZB. Sorry about that. Probably should have muted, but I just turned on the PZB. So the PZB is one of the safety systems that ensures that the driver is fully aware of the situations and the environment around the train. So you'll see that first of all, that signal that's flashing ahead, I'm going to have to acknowledge that. I have to press a button, which I have mapped to page up, but it's this one here, PZB acknowledged. When I press page up, it makes a beep and it clicks. So if you're a beep, I'm just acknowledging that signal. Another button I'll be using is the end key, which is PZB release, and this is whenever you set off after a full stop, you'll sometimes have a watch here that will not allow you to go above 45, and the reason that the train wouldn't let you go above 45, I'm just going to close the doors, is that, for example, let's say that you had a signal that was amber, so the next signal would be red, and you stopped at a station, you might forget that the signal coming up is red. So that's this kind of, just another kind of protection. Anyways, we're going to set off. So this flashing signal here, so I'm just going to press PZBN, so I'm released from the 45 km/h restriction. Going to go up to 60 as indicated on the top of the signal in white. And I'm going to acknowledge that signal. As you can see, the 1000 Hz light has come up. That means I've acknowledged the signal. And I'll explain the signals in just a second, but there's a bunch of rules which sometimes are a bit hard to memorize. But I'll do my best at explaining them in this short video. So, something I should probably do is try and zoom in a bit to... something very frustrating about this game is you cannot zoom in to see the displays and outside very well at the same time, so you kind of gotta choose one or the other. Anyways, I cannot go above 85 yet, so I'm gonna just stay below 85 until that yellow text disappears, because otherwise I might get emergency brake activation, sorry. And that is not nice to your timetable. There's the next signal. So, you might see that there's a flashing 85. So, what this 85 is it tells us of the mode that we're in. I'm just going to acknowledge this signal now. Can I... Yeah, I mean, I cannot really do anything here, but I've got to slow down to 60 actually. Because on top of that signal, I don't know if you saw, but there was a 6. And as per standard in the German railways, sorry, I'm going to make it sometime, all the speeds are always the speed divided by 10. So for example, if you have a panel with 12, that's 120 km/h. Anyways, back to explaining what that 85 is. So the 85 is basically telling us what the mode that the train's PZB system is in. So 85 is the fastest mode, you can say, and it's available for trains, well, it's available for any train really, but essentially you would be in this mode O when you have got a train that has braking capabilities and accelerating capabilities which would be good enough to allow you to slow down to 85 kilometers per hour when you see a signal that's a danger. And this will make sense when I explain the system a bit more in just a bit. But essentially, if you're on a large freight train, you'll be on a lower mode, such as M, or I think there might be an N, I'm not sure. But yes, so let's just stop here. And it might seem really confusing, because it is, and you've just got to drive around to kind of get used to it, and it'll make sense. Let's stop here. Ah, that was not too bad. Open the doors. So, let's see. So this 85 here, what it represents is the speed that we need to slow down to when we pass a signal that's not clear, with no additional speed restrictions. We also need to acknowledge any speed limit warnings, so the triangular signs that essentially tell you what the speed limit ahead will be. If we have any of those that are below 85, we need to acknowledge them as well. So there'll be one just after the next station, because yes, I've already tried to film this and I screwed up while trying to explain, and I actually got emergency braked twice. But so let's see if we can make this run slightly better than the last one. Just waiting a bit on the schedule so that we can depart. So also the Zephyr, I don't know if I didn't activate the Zephyr, and what the Zephyr is it's essentially a system that means that you've got to press a button every 30 seconds to show that you're still alive and well. It's essentially a dead man switch, but I didn't want to have to press numpad enter every 10 seconds, so I didn't turn that on. But what's great is that you can choose just how realistic you want to be, which is not bad. I'm actually going to put a bit of headlights on because I think we should probably have a bit more lights in these dark conditions. Let's set off from here. So I remember I was saying earlier that when you leave from a full stop, you'll be restricted to 45. So let me just refine on that. If you're in a mode where you've got a yellow thing that appears here, then you'll be restricted to 45 when you leave a station. So I'm just correcting what I said earlier because I was just wrong. Anyways, let's speed up here. Next station is in 1.7 kilometers. Yeah, so I've actually had some scenarios where there was quite a lot of signal work. So that's to say that there was a lot of traffic, and I actually had to pay attention because I was essentially chasing yellows and there were trains ahead. But in this scenario, I don't think there's too much traffic. I mean, as you can see, all the signals are green. So, I might, you know, I'll just keep on rambling about the signals because it's actually quite interesting. So, on these German railways, this kind of local, I guess you could say, lower speed railways, as opposed to high speed lines, you've got two different types of signals. So two main types of signals. You have main signals and you have distant signals. So the distant signals essentially announce what the upcoming main signal is. So this is a contrast to British signals, where main signals show you the next aspect as well. They kind of give you a preview. And you do have repeaters in the United Kingdom, but they're only used on turns, for example, so that the driver can know whether or not he has to slow down. But so in Germany you have two different types of signals. You have distant signals and main signals. So whenever you pass a distant signal with an aspect that isn't clear, you've got to acknowledge it, or a main signal for the matter. And so the way that the train knows that you've just passed a distant signal is through the use of magnets. So there's one just over here. I'm going to see if I can make it before we depart. I think it should be all fine. So this for example, is a distant signal. So how can you tell that? Well, you can tell it because there are only two lamps and also this white light as a giveaway. The white light means that this signal is closer to the main signal than it would be normally. Because normally they're set a fixed distance from the main signal, and in this case they were a bit closer. This is a main signal. So as you can see, it's a different type of aspect, and we've got here a magnet, which is a 2000 Hz magnet, as you can see, 2000 Hz. And so with this frequency, the train can detect that it's been passing a signal. And what that allows it to do is check if the aspect is red, for example, to set the emergency brake. Because if you have a train passing a red signal, you of course want to prevent any possible collision, so you'll set the emergency brake. This can actually be overridden by pressing the delete key, which activates another one of these buttons here, the PZB override. If you hold that button while you pass a red signal, at slow speed you can pass the signal. Now that's just in case the PZB system has a problem, or the magnet is defective, but in reality you'll never really have to use that button. So it's really mostly release and acknowledge. So once again, we're just waiting on the schedule. Shouldn't be too long. So this is not a very long route. It's only half an hour in the scenario page, but if there are any parts that are uninteresting where it's just driving, and I'll probably just cut them out, to be honest. Let's go. Okay, the door's closed. And 100%. Yeah, I mean, I know that in Train Simulator either you can drive passenger trains, or of course you can drive freight trains. I much prefer passenger trains. I don't know what it is, but I just feel like freight trains it's quite slow, and I just like being able to accelerate, slow down, react to signals quickly, and all these things, which you can only really do in a passenger train. So here the signal is green, so no problem. The red here on the left is for the other track, so that's not a worry either. Sometimes it's quite stressful actually. You'll come across a bend and you see a red signal, but actually it's for the other track, so that's something to watch out for. Next station is in 1.5 kilometers. Here's a 70. So because that speed limit is below 85, we need to acknowledge that and slow down below 85 before a certain amount of time elapses. Now I don't know what this amount of time is, so I'm just going to slow down fairly quickly. But if I didn't, I would have emergency brake application. And it is very frustrating to drive around and get emergency brake oh my gosh, it's kind of hard to say, application out of nowhere. So as you get better, you'll have that happen less and less, and it looks like we made it just fine here. So now I'm going to slow down for the station, but there's the 70 limit that we were talking about. Alright. It's nice to be able to step out while the train is just sitting here. Something that's a bit different actually in Train Sim World is there's a lot of graffiti. Now, I just realized this kind of out of nowhere. And it's actually quite high resolution as well, which is pretty impressive. The scenery is nice though. It is nice to be able to walk out and have all these houses, and it looks quite realistic. Let's get back in. We're gonna have to wait, how long? Oh, it's fine, only 7 seconds. Alright. I would take a picture, but there you go. Let's go. So, we're gonna remember that we just have a 70 speed limit coming up. Well, we're already in the 70 zone actually, so we've got to take power off fairly quickly. So yeah, I mean, if you are driving around any German route, whether it's in Train Sim World or Train Simulator, the original Train Simulator, I really highly recommend that you just switch on PZB and just try and see what it's like to drive with it, because it's definitely a big step in realism. It definitely increases your realism quite significantly, and I think that's always a good thing. If that's what you're after, of course. So this is just a cruise control that I'm setting. Oh, they finally updated that as well. That is very good. There you go. So, because this train runs in tunnels quite often... Oh, I just went to 0. Because this train runs in tunnels quite often, it has this cruise control that just makes driving so much easier. So, we're very grateful for that. I think they call it this... temper map. Anyways. Let's see. Another distance signal, that little plaque underneath, that shows it's a distance signal as well. The rectangle. Yeah, as much as a lot of things in this game look very good, I must say the clouds are very impressive. Especially coming from someone that plays Flight Simulator, so I'm used to having pretty high expectations for clouds. But again, clouds are something that's very difficult to draw, so understandable. Okay, we're cleared to go up to 120 now. I didn't actually see the sign, probably because I was looking at the sky like an idiot, but let's accelerate. We don't have much time because we're only 1 kilometer from the next station. So, let's see. So I actually have taken some of these commuter rail services in Germany, and I must say that they were very, very good. It was very efficient, of course on time. It's the least you can expect from it being German, I guess. And definitely very impressive coming from someone that lives in the United Kingdom. So earlier I mentioned that there was another type of protection. So I was talking about PZB. We're going to run someone over. Oh well, that's a little bug that they're crossing when the crossing is closed. So this is PZB right now that we're using, and all these acknowledging and everything. That's all the PZB systems. But on a high-speed rail, you have another system which is called LZB, and essentially that system allows the train to drive itself, because you've got a little wire that runs in the middle of the tracks that essentially transmits. I don't know if it's a wire that transmits, but that's how you can tell you're on an LZB section, is that you've got a third wire in the middle. And the train knows how far it is from the next signal, and it knows the aspect of the next signal, which means that it can automatically speed up and brake, which makes your high-speed driving a lot more smooth and stress-free. But we're not driving high speed for the moment, we're driving local, so we're just going to wait. And we're going to keep driving with the PZB system. Alright, let's go. So, how do I actually look at the timetable like this? Okay, looks like we'll be there within 10 minutes, which is all good. Well, 12 minutes. So yes, out of all my routes in Train Sim World, this is my favourite by quite far. The other ones I have is the Great Western Railway, which is the route that goes from Paddington to Reading. And I like that route, but the problem is I prefer driving electric trains. I don't know, I just find diesel trains loud, so and the acceleration is also better on an electric unit, like this one. Well, this particular train is actually an EMU, so an electric multiple unit. But it's not a bad route. But I believe that now, so in 2019, the Great Western Railway has actually been electrified, though I'm not 100% sure on that. But in the game, it's only partly electrified, and of course you have no trains that are actually electric that we have in the scenario. And that actually makes me think that we do have some liberties that we used to have in Train Sim that we have had removed in Train Sim World. So for example, before you were able to take any train and put it on any route and drive around, whereas in Train Sim World you can't do that anymore. Which I guess is unfortunate, but at the same time, we need some innovation, so... Alright, let's slow down. I really do like the motion blur like this, it definitely feels very realistic. And let's see if I can get this stopped good. Also, so with this new update of Train Sim Worlds, because now it's technically called Train Sim World 2020, there's this new achievement system which I don't really know too much about, but I guess we'll see how that plays out. That was my Discord, by the way, sorry about that. I should have put not disturb, but I don't always remember to do that. Let's stop before the barrier and the right doors. Yeah. So I was saying that there used to be something I realized that they've actually fixed in this update is before when you open the doors there would always be a little freeze as the game kind of realized that you were in the station, but now this isn't a problem, so that's something I'm very happy to see fixed because it was just quite frustrating, but everything's good now. It's a very small station, I must say. It looks like it's in the middle of a forest. I mean, I'm sure there's a town not very far away, but regardless. Alright, you can go now. Let's close the doors. Get a little outside view. It's actually a little tip. If you want to move the camera forward and backwards, you can use the arrow up and the arrow down keys. It took me a while to figure that out, but it is actually quite important because I think the default is set like quite far out like this, and it's hard to take good pictures. So you can just zoom in, and it looks much better, just like that. Some little things that make your game a lot better. So yeah, I'm gonna try and make this video a lot shorter than the other ones. So I mean, my original aim was about 20 minutes, but I think it'll probably end up being half an hour, maybe just slightly less. But the Flight Simulator video was very long, and that's just because of the nature of Flight Simulator. So there are so many things that you need to do to get a flight going. You need to plan it, you need to get the weights, you need to spawn at the airport, you need to do all the ground stuff, you need to taxi, you need to take off. All these things you've got to do. So I understand that. I mean, I've already, of course, watched Flight Simulator videos before, and of course there are many times I'm impatient, I just skip the parts I don't really care about. So, I mean, of course, people can feel free to do that, I'm sure they do. Because, sometimes you just want to see someone take off, or even, like, a lot of people just want to see landing, so, which is understandable. Like, of course, even for me, which, when I fly, the landing is kind of the point, the culmination point of everything. But I try and appreciate all the phases. Of course, in cruise, I always try and do my own stuff. I watch a video, I do homework, this kind of stuff. And that's actually an advantage of Flight Simulator, is that you don't actually have to be focusing 100% during quite a certain part of it. So, of course, during the whole cruise, you can do your own stuff. It's good to stay by your computer because for some reason my aircraft have a tendency to just disconnect the autopilot randomly, and that's had some pretty disastrous consequences. So I was doing a long haul the other day, flying from Frankfurt to Washington, and I put the autopilot, and I went out for a walk, and I came back, and the plane had done a 360-degree loop, and was completely going off the flight plan, and thankfully I got back in time so I could make it go back on the route. But sometimes, you know, you're not as lucky, and it's really frustrating because it means that you can't really leave the computer with a peace of mind that your flight will go on. Before that was not a problem, so I would happily leave and let it fly itself. But then I started getting problems on the FS Labs, which in and of itself is annoying, but it was not too bad because I mostly do medium to short haul on that plane. But then it started happening on the 747, and that's much more annoying because those are very long flights. But I've managed to do some very long flights, and the autopilot was just fine all along, which was great. So I did Singapore to London, and I mean the autopilot didn't mess up. The game crashed while I was away, but I just had to reload it and go back where I was. But hey, these are troubles that you deal with when you play Flight Simulator, honestly. Okay, let's start slowing down. This is something that you just have to practice as well, slowing down and to get to the right speed at the right time. It's very frustrating to brake early, just as it's very frustrating to brake late and miss the station. But I think the former is better, so that's what we're aiming for. Let's try and increase the braking just a bit. More. That looks good. I'm gonna pop out and look if that clock actually works on the platform. I'm honestly hoping it is, because it's these kind of little things that really make a difference in a game like a simulator. Yeah, it is. Okay, that's cool. Let's see, the clock is actually working. Something that Train Simulator never delivered on was having dynamic arrival boards. And I still think they haven't actually implemented it, even on Train Sim World. And I mean, I'm not saying it's something that's particularly easy to implement, but you know, I'm sure it could be done with minimal effort. And it's really that kind of small thing that just makes the game so much more immersive. And it's a bit of a shame that it's not there. So next stop is Dessau Hauptbahnhof. So that is our terminus, I think. Look at all these people crossing the crossing while it's red. Oh, while it's red, while the barriers are closed. So I'm probably gonna look on Google Maps after where Dessau actually is. I think I'm going to turn off the cabin lights as well, just because it's a bit bright. Yeah, we'll get the reading lights on. I'm going to go ahead and put the cruise control on. 120. It looks like they've also updated this thing, which was a pain to use before, but now it's much easier to put into the correct mode, or the correct speed, I mean. Yeah, cruise control is very nice, especially when you're on sections with constant speed limits. Of course, it doesn't mean that you want to let your guard down, because all you need is a flashing green signal to require some action. So what the flashing green means is that the next block is essentially at a reduced speed. So I think the default speed must be 45 or something. Whereas the, oh look, there's a flashing green, speak of the devil. Whereas there can be signs that modify them. For example, this one is a 60. So what this means is that the next block, we're going to have to be at 60. So I'm going to start to slow down. So I had to acknowledge that, so I've got to be below 85 within a certain amount of seconds. So again, I'm just going to slow down. So I'm with below 85 and not worried of getting an emergency brake application, which I really don't want. Oh, and we've got to be at 60. Oh, it's fine. The 60 is yellow, which means that it's upcoming. As you can see, that was another distance signal. I acknowledged it again. Here's the signal where we've got to be at 60 at. It is yellow, which means the next signal is red. So we're going to have to acknowledge that again. And we're going to have to be careful, because when we go over the next magnet, it's going to say 500 Hertz. And we're going to have to slow down more. But that shouldn't be a problem, because we're arriving at our final terminus anyways. So we're on time, which is good. We didn't get any emergency brake yet, which is also good. We're probably going to go left here, yep. I really like the signaling system in Germany, if it's not been clear yet. I just find it's very smart how there are variable speed limits and all this kind of stuff. And the train next door is passing. There you go. 500 hertz magnet. If you look just on this part of the UI. Actually, I just realized you can't see my mouse. So every time I do that, there's no point. I'm not sure why I cannot see the mouse. It must be something with shadow play. But I think I might have fixed it. So, I mean, I have no way of knowing until after I've recorded and looked at it again. So that's a bit... Anyways, let's stop here. Wonderful. Unlock on the left. So I'm going to try and stick with the schedule of a video every Wednesday. It's going to be different until I run out of things to do. So maybe I'll do some Euro Truck, maybe I'll do some other stuff. But I'll eventually redo some Omsi, redo some Flight Simulator, redo Train Simulator. But honestly, this is something that is very, very time consuming, making these videos. So I might not be able to do it, but I'm just trying it out, mostly for the analytics, because something that's great about making YouTube videos is that you get analytics which are it's very interesting to look at, and that's one of my favorite things, is the analytics, because it's very interesting to see like which parts of videos people enjoy the most, and all these kind of things. So let's just quickly put the train into neutral. We don't need to do this, but you know what, why not? I'm going to put that on 0. I'm going to put the parking brake. Let's see, let's put the headlights into marker. Leave the doors open. Turn off that. That'll stop people in the back, right? Yep, so let's not turn off their lights. I'll just put this back how it was. There you go. And let's get out. I mean, I could turn off the electricity. This is something else that's good. So many things are simulated that I can pretty much turn off the train just like that. There you go. There's now no electricity because the lights are still on for some reason. Oh well. Oh. I still cannot use doors though, that's interesting. Well anyways, thanks for watching. We're going to see the summary now, which is going to show our speeds and whenever we went over limit. That looks very good. I think we just went above here, but that's fine. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I hope this is a bit shorter because, well, first of all, it's very time consuming to record longer videos, but also it takes a lot of time from you guys, so. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye bye, see you next Wednesday.